It's a memoir. It's a true story about when my husband, Nathaniel, who's currently imbibing in the wine back there, when he and I decided that we would chase after a dream and move to Alaska in 2019. But it's a lot more than just a road trip story. It's a love story, and it's a story of self-discovery. And more than anything, the reason that I wrote this book is because I felt like there's a lot of trendy bullshit that's out there that talks about life on the road, living your best life, and I wanted to capture what my actual lived experience was like on the road. So tonight I'm going to read 3 different things for you all. The first is the prologue, kind of setting the scene, and then I'll share a little bit in between, and then we'll move on. December 2018. I think you should go. Roger says to me over the phone. I've got my feet kicked up beside the steering wheel, my chair pushed back while the car is in park. The street light is glaring overhead, stark against the night sky. What's the worst that can happen? He says it in a way that isn't a question. I take a breath and consider what he's saying. Something about the way Roger speaks when he's sure of something makes your ears perk up and listen. Right now, I believe him. In a whirl of impetus and feeling, I thank him, hang up the phone, and slam the car door, hurrying up the steps to my apartment. Inside, I find my partner Nathaniel at his post in the kitchen, his favorite place. He's chopping an onion and stirring up something delicious on the stove. I slump into a dining room chair beside him and sigh. He is oblivious as to what I'm about to say. After all, we just decided a few days ago it was too risky. This is going to sound crazy, I begin, and he looks at me. I think we should go. I know we don't have a plan. I know we are both afraid of how we will make money, and I know we just decided against going, but I just got off the phone with your brother, and he thinks that we should, and I agree with him. Nathaniel drops the chunks of onion onto a skillet, and they begin to sizzle in the hot oil. He's looking at me with all the seriousness in the world. I take a deep breath and watch him formulate his thoughts. Making a life-changing decision on the whim of someone else's encouragement is irrational, isn't it? I think you're right, he says, surprising me. He pauses before adding, Are you sure? I hear hope in his voice. Yes, I swoon, jumping to my feet. I just want us to decide and then be done deciding. I don't want to be able to change our minds again. No take-backsies. He nods, and I hold out my hand. Can we, I don't know, shake on this, I say, so we know it's real? I know this is what we want. Damn it, we can't keep waffling. It's this year or never. I think we should move to Alaska. Nathaniel takes my hand in his and gives it a firm squeeze. From there, I'll give some background of what our relationship looked like and moving to Nashville and all of the back and forth of deciding, should we stay, should we go? Is our life good enough here? We've made friends. Why would we burn everything down and move to Alaska? I share the story of our wedding, all the planning involved in deciding to do this road trip, which would end up taking 2 months, over 10,000 miles. And so the next part that I'm going to read is after we have left, we're on the road, and it's one of our first campsites in Missouri. Day 5. 3 sets of headlights come barreling down the gravel road headed straight for our campsite, blaring loud music out open windows. It's 3 a.m. Ellie, wake up! Ellie, please wake the fuck up! Nathaniel is panicky, scream whispering, but I can't hear him. I'm fast asleep and dead to the world. I wake to the sound of voices, loud voices, and the distinct sound of rattling tent poles and slamming car doors. I look up and see 6 or 7 people milling about 40 feet from where I'm sleeping. Nat? What in the world? Good grief, finally you're awake. I hear relief in his voice, and we stare at each other in disbelief across the chasm of our hammocks. We are both in shock as the middle-of-the-night campers laugh and shout and bang things around. Does someone have a speaker? Let's play some music, one of them shouts. You've got to be kidding me. The sounds of Halsey and bass start thumping across the lake. Are these people for real? Are they like nutbags? I ask after a few minutes of listening to the pandemonium play out beside us. I climb out of my hammock and walk over to Nathaniel. These people are acting like it's 3 in the afternoon, not 3 in the morning, I say, bewildered. I hear cans of beer being cracked open. These kids are clearly not about to settle down. Nathaniel and I discuss packing up camp and trying to sleep down the road in the car. Before we get very far, one of the teenagers approaches us. We learn they are high schoolers who just graduated today from Kansas City, which is 3 hours away. They are clearly all drunk. Nathaniel and I both drank somewhat when we were in high school, but we didn't flaunt it like these clowns. We can try to keep it down, the kid says, and we, the boring, exhausted grown-ups, try not to sound flabbergasted when we say, yeah, sounds great. They turn the music off and start to settle down. Nathaniel and I return to our hammocks and fall back to sleep to the muted sound of drunken teenagers' brazen, selfish revelry, shushed just within reason. Were we once so cocky and rude? God help me, I must be getting old, as evidenced by my annoyance with the youths. We are woken up again by the same slamming and chatter about 4 hours later, when the kids are packing up. Nathaniel and I do morning camp chores and can't stop talking about last night's visitors. He tells me again about how he shouted to wake me up, terrified we were about to be murdered. I'd sleep through the apocalypse, I say with a laugh. So the next part takes place at the Grand Canyon. And one thing that I particularly enjoyed about writing and editing this book and the creation process was whenever the musing went past just kind of telling a play-by-play of the events of being on the road. And so I think this really captures some of the emotional side of going through the experience that we did. Every inch of my body wants to stay in the warmth of this bed all night. It's 6 p.m. though, and it's time to make a decision. To venture back into the park to see the sunset or not. The bed is stronger than the pair of us. Nathaniel's succumbing to its allure. I gather my night gear, fill my thermos with coffee, and head out. Purple route, blue route, red route. It takes 3 buses to get to the stop I read online is best for sunset views, because it highlights the canyon's east and west sides. Yes, this is what I need, that panoramic, turn your head both ways, mind-blowingly massive view. I spot 13 elk and 1 deer along the way. I manage to catch the last connection, and we arrive at the destination 8 minutes before sunset. There's a gathering for the night's performance, but I'd hardly call it a crowd. I step past the couples holding one another and the teenagers messing around too close to the edge, and find a spot where I can stand with some solitude. I put in my earbuds and play some of my favorite emotion-provoking songs with sweeping crescendos, hoping to elicit some deeper thoughts and invite my feelings to surface. I snap a few pictures for posterity, but feel moved to tuck my phone into my pocket and just be in the moment. I can Google a way better photo of a Grand Canyon sunset than anything I can capture on my shitty old phone. I almost didn't even come out here. And this happens every night. Canyon doesn't care who's watching. She does this all the time. I'm holding back tears. Everything about this moment, the doubt, the almost missing out, the disappointment of this afternoon, the awkward inner judgment I feel about crowds and tourism while also being a participant, it all coalesces. I am overwhelmed with feeling, awe and gratitude and tininess. These feelings taste familiar. Last year, I took a solo backpacking excursion across Europe, 5 countries in 3 weeks, during which I felt constantly exhausted, grateful beyond words, lonely, in awe, and conflicted. Travel is privileged. Travel is complex. Travel is not a simple escape. Is what we're doing even technically travel anyway? We have no true home. We are wandering around. We are so lucky. I am feeling everything, and everything is mirrored back at me in the most breathtaking sunset before me. My playlist shuffles to the song Good Times by All Time Low, which always makes me think of Nashville. and specifically Lana. I don't know if she has ever heard the song before, but every time I listen to it, I think of the last time we hung out, how hard it was knowing the end was coming, and wordlessly acknowledging, in the deep, honest parts of our hearts, that what we had was changing. It would never quite be the same again. The song hums in my ears, leading into the chorus. I stop holding back. I'm not audibly crying, but my arms are wrapped around me, and my shoulders are shuddering. I don't care who sees. The light shifts a dozen shades of flame, of dust, of deep sea. This is why I had to go. This is what I came for. The lyrics echo my feelings about leaving and carrying on and hating to say goodbye, and above all else, never forgetting the good times. Note to self, you cannot expect or plan the emotional unraveling, but you can say yes when it finally comes. I'm full on sobbing now. This summer has been so much harder than I expected it might be. What are we even doing? Who the hell do we think we are moving to Alaska? What if we become one of those couples that breaks up on the road, a statistic, succumbing to a dumb fight and abandoning our big dream? The thing is, I'm not just scared of messing things up. There's also more feeling if I move past that brain narrative. I'm also thrilled. My mind becomes overwhelmed with so many good memories that my heart could burst. How is it that sometimes you can know you're making a memory that you'll cherish for a lifetime? I can feel it right now. Honestly, that is why we're out here. That's why we sleep on the ground and take 3 buses to see if the sunset is worth it. That's why we chase the allure of other horizons. I move past those tears too, and beyond them, there's yet more feeling. I have no idea what my real life will look like on the other side of this memorable, challenging, precious summer. But that's not for me to know, not now. This is my faith, trusting that sometimes the shattering golden light of this moment is the holiest way to honor the gift of my life, and that tomorrow is none of my business. The sun kisses the edge of my vision goodnight, and after the bright light fades, everybody scurries up the hill to stand at the line at the bus stop. I'm standing by myself now, staring out at the dark canyon, the last glowing embers of day on the horizon, the moon peering through a loose cloud high above. I begin slowly making my way back toward the bus stop and take a seat at a picnic table. I sip my coffee and notice rain starting to fall gently. I watch one bus come and take away some of the group and wait for the next one, catching the last bus back. Thanks. So yeah, feel free to go get a drink, come back if you want, whatever, and you can stop recording. Okay. And yeah, and if you guys have questions, we can do that after.